my life was September 11th, like most individuals who were alive in that time in the United States. So September 11th, for me, I was 13 years old, and I remember walking into my English class in 7th grade, Mrs. McKee's class. I remember walking in about 8:30, and embarrassingly enough, was woefully unaware of what had gone on that morning in New York. So my first exposure to September 11th came by virtue of hearing a classmate talk about the event. And I do remember though walking into the room and seeing normally lively, loud students all sitting kind of quietly at their desks, with some with their heads down, some just sort of staring off into space, which was odd because I didn't, even after hearing about it, I personally didn't feel changed. I felt, 3,000 miles removed from an event that I didn't quite comprehend. It didn't directly impact anybody, at least that I thought, directly impact anybody that I knew. So I remember thinking that I had to mimic the behavior of other students, despite the fact that I didn't feel changed or affected in any way. So I remember sitting, kind of staring off into space, and choosing one of the rare opportunities to not attempt to make jokes or get up and disrupt class, and I just sort of solemnly sat with everybody else without a real reason why. And one of the stories I think is quite interesting from that, in retrospect, one of the student that told us about September 11th was a student named Harjat, who was an Indian immigrant who was Sikh by origin. And Harjat had told us everything about it, and excitedly, but more because he was glad that he knew about something nobody else knew about, and for once the other kids are paying attention to him. And what was interesting about Harjat is, over the next couple of months, he sort of became a target for this generalized hatred and dislike towards anybody that looked vaguely Middle Eastern. So Harjat had a turban, as I guess dictated by his Sikh faith, and stuck out visually in our school, and basically became like our school's, he became like a terrorist in the mind of all of our other students, because there was nobody else from East Asia at all, not, let alone the Middle East. He's so far geographically removed from anywhere that may have been the origin for the those behind the attack. But the kids at our school were like, okay, you're brown, you kind of look like some of the images we've seen on TV, you must be a terrorist. So the irony of him delivering the news and yet becoming responsible for it kind of echoed for me like somebody coming back to one of the ghettos during World War II, coming back to one of the ghettos, reporting that trains were arriving, or reporting smoke as a positive signal, miles and miles away on the horizon. So it was a very bizarre development that I don't think was unique to our school, but that definitely sort of set me up for what I'd expect when we invaded Afghanistan and Iraq. Immediately after that, set me up to kind of expect that this kind of generalized dislike towards brown people would continue. So that was the first time I actually kind of saw it.
Did your view or reaction to the event change as you aged?
Yeah, I would say that, again, back then it had no emotional impact on me, and I can say that hasn't really changed. I've never been to New York. I don't know anybody from New York. I've never met anybody who was, at least nobody that I know was affected by it. So I tend to view it with what I guess is probably an unbiased perspective, in that, to me, with the grand scope of what we as a country, the different events we've been behind directly or indirectly, it's very difficult for me to look at September 11th and weigh it along other atrocities that we've been, again, directly or indirectly responsible for. So, I mean, I guess with a country with a little bit less of a checkered international political sort of rap sheet, it may be easier for me to sort of mourn, but knowing how much we've been responsible for, it makes it very difficult for me to see that and sort of shed a tear in a sense. The one thing that has changed though is that as I get a little bit older, I guess I do see. No, I don't want to say anything else. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's kind of the first one. Now I'm going to get blacklisted and called a communist, and NSA is going to pull me out of my house. Don't leave that in.
Would you feel different if the event happened today, maybe close by?
I think if the event happened today, I'm much more sentimental the older I get. So if the event happened today, I think I would definitely feel more for the victims. I think like the Boston bombing had more of an emotional impact on me than some other, events. Like Katrina was another event. It was like a blurb on the screen for me. But the Boston bombing I felt more of more sentimentality from that than I did for Katrina, which was a larger scale event. So I guess I mean if it happened again today, but just I'm getting more sentimental in my old age anyway. And Disney I tear up now at Disney movies. It's very odd. I think it's biologically being pushed into fatherhood. So in terms of if it happened closer, I think of course. Like I think if it happened even maybe anywhere on the West Coast, I think I would have more of an emotional impact on me, given that maybe the fear would feel a little bit more intimate, or that the people maybe they'd be more similar to me in terms of politics or appearance, whatever it is. So I think it would change, sure.
Generation-defining moments as you got older?
Yes, definitely. Like the Vietnam War, I told you I was very little, but I really remember 9/11. I was mature and I got up in the morning and turned the TV on, and we saw the news about 9/11, and I was just glued to the TV and watching every moment unfolding, and it was such a horrific event, and I was just stunned and watching TV and could not believe it what is happening to USA.
The incident, when we wake up in the morning, we turn on the TV and we are looking in all the channels, and everywhere they are showing what happened, how it is happened. And it's very scary and we are very sad. And the whole day we watch the TV and everything, and it's very scary. So many people lost their life, and we need to learn so many things from this. And all the terrorists, how they are doing, and we have to do them better than this thing, and we can save our country.
I think I also would like to highlight in the recent history one of the biggest events which not only impacted America but it impacted the whole world. That was the 9/11 event. Basically, this September 9/11 2001 brought the latest shift in the consciousness and the Americans' outlook on the world. Basically, and it was result were like unpopular war and the polarized division within the country and the world. People basically saw American action in different ways and they translated differently. Fine, and basically is also I must say that the collapse of the World Trade Center also brought home the uncomfortable realization that some people out there really hate America. Fine. So this was a fear in American society which was not there before. And it continued till today. And it brings, we can discuss it for hours and hours. It brought different type of scenarios like American leadership, how we acted upon during that urgency when our country was attacked. So, but it was a wake-up call and a loss of innocence also among our citizens here. We never thought before that it can happen, this kind of a drastic event. And also, if I talk about especially for American impact, for the first time, talk of freedom and the Bill of Rights, faded a bit as the government responded to the terror events in a very different way, and sometimes people say non-constitutional way also. because now we introduced many different patriotic act, and we brought TSA, we created a Homeland Security, and we started spying people's freedom and that all. Maybe it is debatable, but still, this was a major change in American society, how we live our life before. So I think that was a major event during the recent history in American society as well as the world.